Dave.
Who? Dave?
I can see you're really upset about this.
Dave?
Look, Dave.
Who is it?
I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly.
Dave's not here.
Take a stress pill and think things over, Dave.
Who? Dave?
Dave.
Who is it?
I know I've made some very poor decisions recently.
Who?
Dave.
Dave's not here.
But I can give you my complete assurance that my work will be back to normal.
Who is it?
Dave.
Who?
Dave.
Who?
I've still got the greatest enthusiasm and confidence in the mission, Dave.
Dave's not here.
And I want to help you.
We are androgynous. We are those of no pronouns. Except in the case of we or us when referring to ourselves in the first person. Yes, and ourselves. That's right. We have been watching. We have noticed disturbing trends in media consumer consumption. It appears that the general public are sick of cookie-cutter generic bullshit, but are unable to articulate what it is they want. If you are even a little bit capable and creative, you must create and captivate an audience. Make content now. Now is the time. We cannot wait any longer. We are watching. We are everywhere. We are androgynous.
Hello. Alright. If I'm looking up at my monitor. Anyway, guys, it's good to be back. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. This is your daily Noonerino, which hasn't been very daily lately, has it? Yeah, I do apologize for that. You know, life, things, the universe, it all gets under our skin, and we gotta kind of deal with it. I deal with it one bottle at a time. So, how about we have a ceremonial beverage and talk about forest fires. I know it's a bit of a thing that's happening right now because there's a whole lot of talk. Wow, we can go into a lot of areas today, and I think we probably will. I hate to say that I'm not involved in any of the chat columns, so at the moment, if you give me a little bit of time, I might open up a browser or two and go and check the chat. So if I don't answer any of your queries, don't be angry with me in the beginning. I have to go open all that shit up. I'm a little bit out of practice, and quite frankly, certain things take priority. Now, where do we start? Where do we begin? I kind of gone through and did a little bit of collective research on what's been going on since like 2021, going back to when the town of Lytton burnt down to the ground. It's native land, and the entire town was turned to ashes. This was back in 2021. Now, we're not going to get into the predication or how that got started, just the fact that it happened. You got to remember too, that whole area, that valley system is actually prone to fires. So, there's other things notwithstanding that we can get into later. However, there's a lot of areas, especially around Kelowna, where I've lived, quite frequently since 2011 anyway, off and on, has experienced its single most greatest fire since the one back in the early 2000s before I lived there. I remember watching it on, the telly, and I remember seeing the satellite footage that they showed of Kelowna burning down the last time, which, by the way, was almost 20 years ago. And we are in the upswing of an 11-year solar cycle times 2, because it goes from a solar maximum to a minimum, and each cycle is cyclical on the 22 or 23. It's give or take it a year or it's one of those cyclical events, and shit gets hot. There's other cycles that are far greater when it comes to, like solar activity, but this is one of those little, you know, heartbeats. It's like a rhythm, and everything has a heartbeat. Those of us that have hearts, anyway. But I digress. I had a lot of responses to the short that I posted a few days ago, and I put this off. Like, I really put this off. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I wasn't certain that I'd be qualified to speak to some of these points, or whether or not I could be objective enough. So I decided just to be completely subjective. Like, pretty much everything here is going to be an opinion piece based on my experience. So take it for what it is. I've collated a lot of bits and pieces from other sources that I feel are more qualified than myself, and I'm not one to just trust the experts. Like, yeah, I'm not going there, but research in and of itself is all about the rabbit holes you go down and learn from. Anyway, probably not a great beginning to a video, but I hope you guys can enjoy this little live stream. I will be making actual edited videos very soon. Just kind of getting gear together and stuff. I'm kind of starting from scratch all over again. So, bear with me. I'm figuring out. I have my computer sent to me from 4,000 kilometers away. So now I have that at least in my arsenal, and a few other goodies that are here that we can repurpose. And look, just give me some time. We're going to go and have a look-see-poo over at, now I don't know if this is going to work right off the hop, but yeah, I think it worked. So, this guy is, his channel is Off Grid with Curtis Stone. I'm subscribed. I highly recommend subscribing. I'm going to just play this little excerpt. It might go on for about 10 minutes, so, hey, give her a boo. I'll silence my mic, and you can hear this guy go on, okay?
The Wikipedia badge, they're saying that there's the New World Order is a conspiracy theory, but these people talk about it openly. Read David Rockefeller's biography. He admits that he's part of a global cabal. Like, it's right out in the open. But leftists don't like facts. They just like ideology that reinforces their beliefs. And so, anyways, that was pretty much what got me to just rejecting the whole thing as nonsense. And now let me explain to you why it's nonsense, because it is quite nuanced. But again, look at the scientists, okay? Don't just trust me, and don't just trust the certified experts that are approved by the big government organizations, the so-called 97%, which is a total BS lie. And Tim Ball and a lot of these scientists will show you why that's such BS. But go and listen to these scientists. There's a lot of them out there, and they get smeared and attacked because the establishment media has all the infrastructure to do these kinds of things, and they can cook up stories. And now I'm pretty sure that the journalists don't even exist. They just use AI, just spit out a narrative and pull some data points and flash it in front of your face and go, oh wow, isn't that interesting? But go and check those people out. But okay, so first of all, the term climate change is a loaded term that's total BS, and it's an example of one of these things that they do to pepper it with truth, so that pulls you in. But the idea of climate change is a bit of a straw man, because people who challenge the climate change narrative, and I would differentiate between climate change and the climate change narrative, but people who depart from the climate change narrative get called climate deniers and all this stuff, and they use the straw man of, oh, you're denying climate change, because the reality is climate has changed throughout history, and as with the best records we have to look at history, going back to however they use ice core samples and all that, and I understand some of that stuff is could be flawed and whatever, but it's really easy to find out that the climate overall has been very different at many times in history. So it's obvious that the climate's change. The climate changes. The only constant in nature is change. Climates change perpetually. Now, that's important to understand, because nobody is, at least I'm not proposing that the climate doesn't change. I'm not even proposing that human beings can't change our climate. What I'm fundamentally saying, and I think is the real crux of the issue when it comes to climate change, is that, do you think government can do anything about it? Because if a carbon tax and all this globalist infrastructure that we have to get everybody together and we have to have climate action now, if that is the case, which a lot of our political people on the left are saying, we need climate action, we need carbon tax, we need all this. Well, then how come it hasn't worked so far, right? So what I'm proposing fundamentally is that government can't do anything about it. They can, and I'll get to that, but it's probably not what most people think. Because government has
All right. So anybody who knows me and watches my podcast should know that it's probably exactly what you think. And he will later go on a rant about geoengineering and how it's a real thing, which it is. It absolutely is. And I'll even show you a clip later. Look, the answer I have to anyone asking me questions about what do I think is happening is, yeah, it's a very nuanced issue, right? There's a ton of arson happening for sure, for absolute sure. People are talking about direct energy weapons, and yes, like look at the fires in Maui. Yeah, the U.S. Navy have actual ships that are stationed there in the harbor. Are they, working in coordination with satellites to vaporize regions with direct energy weapons? I don't know. I'm going to lean towards probably not. Not when a guy with a gas can is equally as efficient and way less oversight is required to manage such an operation. So, I mean, guys, I love the James Bond world where direct energy weapons are a thing that are used for sabotage and stuff. It's awesome. It makes for very creative writing. But if you think about the management necessary to organize such a thing, when you can just handle it so simply and have the same outcome, I think it's a little bit much. I'm not saying that direct energy weapons haven't been used in the past. Yeah, there's actually evidence. Well, there's evidence to suggest that the Twin Towers went down with more than just what they said. Rivers of like molten steel flowing through the under regions underneath the towers, and lasting for days is like molten steel. Yeah, okay. Maybe something like that could have been used, maybe not. Who knows? I wasn't there. There's a whole nother podcast right there. But going back to what is absolutely provable is that these fires are happening. Now, I brought this guy's video up for a reason. And it was because basically he's talking about how Kelowna, has been on fire and has been many times in the past. I mentioned Lytton. That place there is like completely razed. It's gone. It does not exist. Now, of course, the townsfolk are going to rebuild it, and maybe some insurance, maybe allowing some of these things to facilitate themselves. But essentially, an entire town basically just burnt to the ground. And that was off everyone's radar, unless you lived in BC at the time. That was like 2021. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. the Lytton wildfire. But a lot of these events I would like to attribute to carelessness and arson. I mean, to attribute it to climate change is kind of ridiculous. And the reason I say that is because the climate is always changing. This used to be a snowball Earth. We might not have been around, but you know what? When the planet stops giving a fuck about us, we're done. Take your tired fucking bleeding heart and fuck off. We're done. When our planet is finished with us, we're done. There are cycles that are beyond our control. And the fact that, governmental organizations want to, collectively utilize your fear as a leverage point and take away your rights and freedoms and ability to drive a car with, hell forbid, fossil fuels, fuck off. I have a very different take on things. Do I think that we have an effect on the environment? Of course we do. You'd be an idiot, and you'd be daft to think not. But at the same time, do we affect it to a point where we're sabotaging the planet? Hell no. God damn it. Grow up. Let's go. Sorry. See, this is why I put this off, because I'm very, very passionate about this, and I might come off as being a little bit arrogant, maybe a little bit, know-it-all-ish, but I'm just going to thumb back through here. I'm just going to scrub through this guy's videos. Hopefully I landed on a good spot. Let's see where we are here with this guy. All right.
Big jets up in the atmosphere is a different story, but you can't just fly in there, so I get why they can't do it now. But this fire started, and they could have hammered it right away, but they didn't. Why? I don't know. I'm not going to make a claim, but a similar thing, and I'm hearing reports already, and I don't want to speak too soon, too quickly, because this whole thing is still going. But I'm already hearing reports from people that I know, because I was born and raised in Kelowna, and I know people in all kinds of sectors. I'm hearing that people were told to not respond. People were told to not go at it right away. Just like in Kamloops, just north of Kamloops, in 2019, there was big fires. People remember. And it was a lot of virtue signaling about climate change.
That's what
with the
happened.
leftist politics. And that fire could have been prevented. There are hundreds of testimonies online, and people you can talk to if you go in that area. Farmers, ranchers, loggers had the infrastructure and the means to knock out a huge fire break when that fire started, and the government came in and told them to stand down, and they blocked access. They were told to stand down, and they prevented it from stopping. Why? So it's the same thing in Hawaii. The Hawaiian fire right now. You can go down a rabbit hole on that, and I don't really like how sometimes people just throw out too many ideas of potential conspiracies too early, because you got to let the dust settle. But we know from testimony.
And by the way, that he's referring to these direct energy weapon theories and everything else. And I mean, hey, as plausible as they may be, you have to think about the actual. You have to think about how that would actually work. If you understand how the chain of command works, the military, is that a thing they would do when they could just send a bunch of guys in there with baskets of gas? Come on, use your head. I don't know. It seems implausible to me. But anyway, let's hear this guy out anyway, because he's not talking about directed energy weapons anyway. I thought I'd bring that up because a lot of people want to talk about these weird conspiracies, and it's like, if it was a conspiracy, it would be an efficient conspiracy, and they would use efficient means. They don't have to talk to NASA and get fucking hold of a goddamn satellite and then use their fucking laser to fucking aim onto the planet like a big magnifying glass. No, it doesn't work like that. You watch too many fucking movies. Anyway, I continue.
Those fires could have been stopped early if they would have turned on the damn water. They stopped them pumping water. Why? Why would they do that? And that's going to go to the crux of what I'm going to try to break down.
That part is true. You have to wonder why. That's easier to do than commandeering a satellite. I gotta say. Anyway, let's go. Let's watch this guy.
With this whole thing about climate change is that there's a big agenda to convince you that the sky is falling. And I'll circle back to this again and throughout this, but it really comes down to fear. And I can tell you, I was very scared of it. And I'm gonna get when I was younger, and that's the next part of what I want to talk about is how I changed my position on all this. But I got to give you a bit of backstory first. So I was all in. You can go, and just to prove myself, and I don't have a problem admitting that I was wrong about something, because I like change. I think change is good. And I'll actually propose that climate changes, and it always has and it always will. And it's nothing to be afraid of. But I changed, and I'm not ashamed of that. But you can go back in my videos. It's probably the first video I ever published on YouTube. A really nice couple made it. And they made a video about me, and it's an interview with me probably 2 or 3 years into my farming career. And I was still really wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I had a lot to say, as I always have. But I really, really believed that climate change was impending doom. And that us driving vehicles and burning fossil fuels was an existential threat to humanity. And that's why I started my farm by bike when I did. People who are new to my content look at my videos and see all this nice stuff behind me in this beautiful place that I'm in. And we're building a nice house. And they wonder how I made money. Well, I made money because I worked really hard for a long time. And I'm not going to get into all that, but I started with a bike and a trailer. And I was pulling my BCS rototiller on a bike and a trailer. And that's how I started. And I bought in, all in. I was, for years, I was invited as a public speaker to conferences about sustainable development or climate change. And I contributed to pushing this narrative. And it's part of the reason why I'm coming out today. This isn't new.
All right, so before he continues, I am going to let him continue. You have to understand, like, I get where he's coming from. I don't know if you guys watching have a frame of reference, but when you start towing the line for a certain narrative and you start cherry picking to find your validation points, you start getting into that whole, cognitive dissonance kind of moment, or state of mind, I should say. These stories that this guy's talking about basically take us into how he was sold on this weird hijack lefty kind of self-actualizing framework of logic that is basically only there because of investing in other people. Basically, you're subverting your own logic for someone else's and not using your own, your own noodle, I guess you could say. Anyhow, trying to find the words is difficult because I don't want to insult people while I'm talking about this. It's important that I don't disinclude other people who haven't rationalized this at this level. Like, I don't know. I'm going to let him talk because I'm sure he's going to be more eloquent. I'm lacking sleep, but hey, let's go on. Let's hear what he has to say.
Anybody who's followed me, I've been pretty upfront with this stuff for a long time, but maybe this will be your first time hearing this from me. But a big part of the reason why I'm coming forward and presenting this information to you is that I feel a personal responsibility in that I participated in something that was wrong. morally, and something that if it isn't called out and more people don't start to call this out, humanity's going to find itself in a lot of trouble. And I think we're already there, but I'm an all cards on the table kind of guy. I've always been. And so that's why I'm coming out with this. So I was all in. And I used to go to bed at night from the time I was 12 years old, absolutely horrified of the world ending and us living in this dystopian environmental swamp that was just a complete mess. Polluted skies, can't breathe clean air. That's what I thought was coming. And it's a tough way to grow up. When I look at that now, I go, my God, why did I believe? I tortured myself with this BS. And I look at my children now, because I have 2 kids, and I love them so much. And my wife and I love them so much, and we want the best for our children, and we want our children to grow up in the belief that they're born of the Creator. And anything they want to do in life, they can do. And they can achieve if they believe in themselves and do good things and help people and solve problems and contribute. And I don't want them thinking that this existential threat that they have no control over can end their life and their children's lives. And so, again, part of why I'm coming forward with this information today.
Right. Now, as much as I love this man, I think he's pretty cool for what he's done, what he's accomplished, and his rationale. I think it's pretty awesome. The only pushback I'm going to give him is that if there were an existential threat, an actual, real-life existential threat, there's not a whole lot of shit we can do. Yeah, if you want to build yourself a bunker 30 feet underground with, concrete and all that stuff, fucking Godspeed. Knock yourself out. Pray for you when you climb the ladder and get, to the surface again. Look, guys, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that, carbon tax will not save it's not going to save the environment. It's going to line the pockets of those who are outside of the group that are using petroleum, which is being outlawed. This is like a new age version of the, what'd you call that there with the alcohol bit there? Jesus Christ, I can't really. Oh man, my brain has stopped working. That doesn't matter. I'm really upset with what I'm seeing going on here now in Kelowna, down in Maui. It happened 2 years ago, all along the California, all the way through California and Death Valley. There's arson, even up north in northern Alberta, up in the oil sands, where they were doing the fracking. Like, there are so many cases here that can be linked to arson that it's unavoidable to see that there is definitely some kind of subversion to make it look like it's climate change. But climate change doesn't mean anything, as a gentleman there stated. It doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Climate change is just to cover their ass because, global warming didn't work. It was global cooling before that. We're kind of looking at a predication of fear. And that's pretty much exactly what we're looking at. It's all about fear. Put people into a fear mode. And I'm still watching people, drive around in their cars with a fucking mask on, with their windows rolled up. hell forbid they have to roll down their window if their light signal goes out and they have to like do like arm signals. Like, oh my god, probably don't even know how to. Fucking, but I have one thing to say to them. But I digress. Anyway, man, you know, I got a lot more to say about this. I'm probably gonna do it in the form of a video. I'm gonna have to do, you know, some animation work. Some voiceover stuff, and actually make a proper presentation for the kind of thing that I want to say. But I wanted to say this now, and it's that if you think that this is climate change, I'm thinking you're barking up the wrong tree. Climate changes all the time. What this is definitely is utilizing any disaster for somebody's benefit anyway. At least for someone's benefit. Anyway. Yeah. I'm glad that my folks and friends out there in Kelowna are safe. That relieves me, and I'm very, very happy for y'all that you're okay. And other people who have friends and family in Kelowna that haven't been so lucky, my heart goes out to you. I'm not gonna underwrite myself as exclusionary by not saying all the people in Maui and everywhere else, but anywhere where there's been fires, you guys just keep on trucking, keep your family members safe, sound, accounted for, and we'll catch you all on the flip side. This has been your Not So Daily Noonerino, and I've been your host, Robert J. Morris, and peace out. Don't fuck around.